Marshall picked Chapter 7. Breaking through stages feels like being reborn. Although Yan Kai was only 15 this year, due to his experiences these past 3 years, he is far more mature than his peers. It is also because of this that he forged this unyielding character. So when he calmed down, sitting on his bed, he carefully started to read the first page. After confirming there were no extra things popping out of the first page, he started to read the second page. With his previous experiences, his actions seemed more natural and knowledgeable. And then Yan Kai's eyes slowly widened as golden words emerged on the dark pages. Proud golden body. Tempered body record. Previously his mood had dropped, but now it soared. Sure enough, as he suspected, every page had something hidden. Almost without thinking, Yan Kai's entire mind was focused on the second page of the book. Abruptly, the golden characters flew off the pages like a fish and swiftly drilled themselves in Yan Kai's brain. The glow enveloped the darkness round him, and then disappeared. After it was gone, he felt as if his brain had gained new information. This had all come from the golden characters. Calming his heart, Yan Kai closed his eyes and began to digest the information. In fact, he didn't need to digest and absorb the information, for when the characters imprinted themselves into his brain, he was already able to comprehend their meaning with ease. A full mastery in another sense. Yan Kai muttered, for he found that it was a fist technique. Though it may seem simple, in reality it was not. In order to perform it, there were strict requirements, for it is extremely profound. In order to cultivate it, you must be facing the rising sun in the east to learn it. So at most, you could only practice for half an hour a day. Currently it was night, so he had to wait at least 5-6 hours to start. This frustrated Yan Kai, for he had exerted himself all day and only ate one measly sweet potato. Nonetheless, he had obtained a priceless treasure, and was jubilant. After trying to sleep for half an hour, he decided to analyze the third page of the Black Book. But it just let him down. No matter how much he checked and flipped, there were no changes to the page. While doing this, he fell asleep. When Yan Kai then woke up, it was nearly sunrise. The pre-dawn darkness was clouded, and still mist covered the whole area, with the occasional insect and bird noises. With his heart looking forward to what was going to happen, Yan Kai quickly leapt out of bed and went to the front of the cabin. Standing there, he took a few deep breaths and let his body slowly relax. A touch of great dawn appeared as he opened his eyes. The set of instructions on the fist technique was practiced hundreds of times. His hands shaped into a palm, with the gentle, slow movement, pushing to the left, to the right, pushing forward, embracing the world in his mind, everything in between the palm, the vast land, even the air covering the moon and stars. Left foot forward, right next to the horizon, the right foot stepped powerfully like the king of the underworld. Between breaths, the world was full of vitality, like spring flowers blooming. The autumn wind blew, like a golden message. Then the cold wind whistled by, signaling the coming of snow, ice, cold snow. Yan Kai's look gradually deepened. Slowly his fists pressed on the heavy rocks. In any case, the rock didn't hint at opening any time soon. With a burst of sound, Yan Kai, with a pale face, suddenly staggered, nearly fell to his knees. While exercising countless times in his mind, he discovered that this art was an absolute fist. Yan Kai never expected this record actually contained such mysterious tempering body technique. For just that short while, Yan Kai felt that the entire world was weighing on his shoulders. But he also felt that he could sense all things in the world under this pressure. This tempering body technique was not the practice of fist techniques. It was the practice of worldly transformation and the fate of the world. This practice was full of ups and downs, joys and sorrows. A slow punch and kick in could affect the power of heaven and earth, but also was full of secret rules. When he launched 6 palms, it took 3 steps. This result wasn't even 1% of the result recorded in the book. Just that had been difficult to sustain. Then a crack emitted from his spine, making him believe that he broke his spine. He quickly inspected it, but only found that his back was in some pain. It wasn't anything big. Stilling his mind, Yan Kai once again started to practice according to the tempered body record. Because he wasn't psychologically prepared, Yan Kai's mind was in a trance. Feeling unclear, he held his breath to regain a clear mind. Accompanied by a slow dance of his fists, Yan Kai once again felt his mind had become clear and regained the atmosphere required to continue. Then his body emitted several indistinct feelings. Yan Kai was uncertain as to what they were. Not only that, with the routine deployment, his fist was actually getting heavier, like being at the bottom of the ocean. With more hardships, there were more improvements. Kaka could be heard. Yan Kai's every action made his bones explode like firecrackers. Excruciating pain permeated throughout his body, but he was unmoved. His tenacity at this moment vividly appeared. In the blink of an eye, Yan Kai felt his hands and feet tremble like they were beaten to pulp. It was like heaven and earth both imposed themselves on his body. Persisting, he didn't falter. Suddenly warmth surged, alleviating the pain within his body in this moment. Spirits lifted, he restarted practice. He knew that this must have been due to the integration of the golden skeleton. After all, both of these things came from the same place. In front the sun rising, near a cabin in a remote place of the school stood a sweating young man, diligently practicing slow fists and discovering his future. Half an hour passed when Yan Kai suddenly felt light. He no longer felt the heavy pressure on his body. Right at this moment, he could no longer continue cultivating this skill. The record was very clear. You could only cultivate for half an hour every day at sunrise. His effort seemed to have drained him. Thus Yan Kai fell to the ground in a heap and took a deep breath. A surge of purple gas accompanied his breath and disappeared. In an instant, he felt refreshed and energized. Looking distracted, he couldn't help but be shocked. Atmosphere sense. He had already developed a sense to the atmosphere. That is to say, he had broken through the tempered body 3rd stage and was entering the 4th stage. This news made him elated. Since entering High Heaven Pavilion, it took 3 years of practicing to reach the tempered body 3rd stage. But after 30 minutes of practicing, the mysterious quenching body technique had allowed him to break through and enter the 4th stage. The tempered body boundary had 9 stages. Until the 3rd stage, it really just enhanced one's physical capabilities. But after the 4th stage, it would generate a presence within the meridians. Only with the birth of atmosphere sense are you considered a true cultivator. Although at this time you will have the atmosphere sense, the body will still have no real strength. You could only wait for the 7th stage, where the body will develop its own strength, all the way until the 9th stage. That is when the body breaks through and creates a door to strength to the initial element stage. Only then will you truly have strength. Initial element stage is the cultivator's true start. Everything in the tempered body boundary was just laying the foundations for the future of the initial element boundary. This foundation was not finalized, like with a man's strength. For your bones, skin would grow continuously until you reach the peak. Yan Kai had just having entered the 4th stage and obtained atmosphere sense. To outsiders, this may not seem like much, but to him it was amazing news and progress. Marshall Peak Chapter 8. A beautiful thin waist half an hour after he broke through, the results of quenching body record were evident. Although his own knowledge contributed, if not for that technique, he believed that he needed another 3-4 months before advancing. With this, he breathed in deeply and exhaled out the impurities in his body. From within his mouth, out came a pitch-black smoke, filthy as it tumbled to the ground. After expectorating the smoke out, his sixth senses all became more acute and sharpened. He's been possessed by a demon. Supernatural style senses, sound, touch, sight, taste, smell, and sixth sense instinct. Was this his body's impurity? Yan Kai shook on the spot. With the practice of cultivation, you will reduce and drain the body of impurities each time. Yan Kai previously had experienced this, but never at this level. Numerous ideas and joy lingered in his mind. Although he had successfully entered the fourth stage, he had made no real progress in the tempered body records fist technique. His daily practice could only produce 1% of the total result out of the 101 punches. There's a saying that have patience and results will come. If you rush, you will miss things. Thinking for a while, Yan Kai planned a bit of his future. Even though it wasn't thorough, he could no longer be like how he had been, taking each step as it came. For after a while, you couldn't help but become impatient. Then, after eating something, he continued to sweep the area. Although he was a sweeper, it didn't mean that he needed to sweep the entire school. He was only responsible for 1/10 of the school. Even though it was cumbersome, it would only take an hour or so. Within the trees, Xian had started to monitor the disciples and inadvertently saw Yan Kai swooping away. To not have some emotions would be weird. Today, there was something different about him, but she wasn't sure. For over half an hour, he hadn't left that spot, sweeping it until it was shiny and spotless. It was so slick that if a mosquito were to go on, it would have a sprained ankle. Trying to express how clean it is. This buffer has a major issue with mosquitoes, I say. At that moment, Yan Kai was thinking about other things. Yesterday, he had obtained a huge opportunity, so naturally, he was considering his future. But no real options were found. He could only continue to practice at sunrise every day for now. While he was pondering, rapid footsteps approached quickly from behind. He quickly went to dodge, but didn't realize that the other party was making preparations to avoid him too. So they crashed into each other. Though he didn't sustain any major injuries, when he crashed into that person, it felt as if he had crashed into a steel wall. With a cry, he fell to the ground and the place he bumped felt numb. Yan Kai quickly recovered and apologetically asked, "This fellow disciple, are you okay?" The young man was annoyed, and when he looked up to see that it was Yan Kai, whose explosive anger dissipated. Holding anger for such a person held no meaning, and it was also his own fault. Replying immediately while waving his hands, "It's all right, it's all right." While saying this and getting up, he then energetically ran away. Yan Kai asked, "Fellow disciple, where are you going to so hurriedly?" The young man faintly shouted, "The contribution hall, where else?" Listening to his words, Yan Kai realized that today was already the 8th day of the month. It was the day where the main gate distributed last month's contribution points. So every month of this day, the contribution hall would be crowded with disciples flocking to collect their points. With these points, they could exchange them for various cultivation pills, treasures, and martial arts to improve their strength. So this day made all disciples all excited. Some were excited, while others disappointed. Yan Kai was of the latter. Startled, he couldn't help but frown. Each month, the amount of points he received was quite meager. Sweepers could earn 10 points, but in the last month he was challenged 6 times, and each time he lost. With reductions after each loss, he was only left with 4 points. This really made people cry. Fortunately, he was only a trial disciple. His status was the lowest, so if he lost, he would only lose 1 point. Ordinary disciples lost 2. Thinking of this, Yan Kai was thankful. But even a small mosquito has flesh, and with his savings he will one day earn enough to exchange them for something worthwhile. Mirza began, "What does the author have with mosquitoes?" There had been enough delay today, he thought as he continued to sweep. When he had finally finished the job, it was noon. Time to go to the hall to collect his points. After the morning's bustle, the hall was now deserted and quiet. Thankfully, he hadn't come in the morning, or the wait would have been too troublesome. Waltzing into the hall, you could clearly see an old man dozing away. This old man was the treasurer of the set. He was about 50 with thin white hair and a kind face. Looking at him, he looked harmless to animals and humans, but Yan Kai knew he was a sly fox. There was once an elite disciple who dared to act arrogant here and was then pushed out of the hall a few hundred feet. His life was almost taken. Yan Kai was present, so he knew this and also knew that his old man held unfathomable strength. Stepping into the view of the old man, Yan Kai could clearly see the old man snoring away. Mirza doesn't even give the old guy the benefit of the doubt. Oh, Sullivan, if you know him well enough, why would you? Holding a broom, he gently nudged the old man while softly calling, "Treasure Meng." The old man's surname was Meng. His first name Yan Kai didn't know, so he couldn't call him that. Tapping the counter a few times, the old man was finally open. He groggily opened up his eyes and saw that it was Yan Kai, wrinkling his face as if he saw shit. Here's up for young viewers, just in case. Sullivan, I'm going to uncensor that XD. What's with that face? Yan Kai asked indignantly. Rolling his eyes, why didn't you come in the morning? Confidently he replied, there were too many people in the morning, and currently it's peaceful, interrupting this old man's rest. Do you know what respecting the elderly means? Leaning in, Yan Kai whispered, which young lady did you dream of? Suddenly full of energy, Treasure Meng replied to Yan Kai with eyes full of contempt and loudly proclaimed, your words just now tarnished this old man's reputation. Too outrageous. Good body figure, great. Treasure Meng unconsciously leaked out. Then GGI had high hopes, but alas, they were shattered. Sullivan, I enjoyed how the two had hopes for this old man in the first place. Supple legs, white skin, and a beautiful, thin waist, and. Immediately he nodded his head, immediately thanking Yan Kai as a friend. Yan Kai sneered. Treasure Meng stammered and blushed as bright as a monkey's ass. Full of shame, he just wanted to dig a hole and crawl inside to hide.